This is not my child. And I'm not part of this story.
My name is Michael Carter. I'm 48 years old, a father of 3, and my days revolve around timetables, school pickups, and predictable habits. That is, until one night, when the ordinary cracked wide open. During dinner, my wife Jennifer glanced up from her phone and said, "I've made up my mind." I thought she was talking about meal planning or maybe our next holiday. But then she added, "I've decided to carry a baby for Emily." Emily, her mirror image twin sister. That was all. No prior conversation, no hint, just a steady, matter-of-fact announcement, as if she'd agreed to house sit for a few days. Where we live, the law requires a full year of separation before a divorce can be finalized. So, for now, we continue living under the same roof, raising the kids together, managing expenses, and maintaining the illusion of a functioning household. But it's all a performance. There's nothing ordinary about seeing bottles of pregnancy supplements beside the coffee pot or stumbling across fertility clinic reminders tucked between the pages of a cookbook. According to her, since she and Emily share the same DNA, carrying a child for her sister is virtually no different. But that reasoning falls flat when it's your own spouse, still legally bound to you, offering up her body for a decision you had no say in. No conversation, no consideration. She painted it as a selfless act. "I need to do something that matters," she told me, as if the life we've built together somehow lacked purpose or depth. Jennifer and I built our life from the ground up, juggling overnight shifts, relying on secondhand clothes, and piecing together vacations on a budget. Emily and her husband Daniel were a constant presence. Our families merged effortlessly. But identical twins share more than childhood. They share shortcuts, silent understandings, and private humor. It's endearing, until you realize you've been excluded from something that matters. At first, I blamed the tension on everyday pressure. Parenting, work demands, mounting expenses. But then came the quiet, missed evenings out, her frequent strolls with Emily, my extra time lifting weights I didn't need to lift. The distance crept in slowly, softly. Then all at once, it broke. Taco Tuesday. Kids arguing, dishwasher humming, and then, "I'm doing this for Emily and Daniel," she said. I asked all the logical questions, timing, health, money, our kids, and got back. My body, my choice. She claimed it was to avoid drama that she didn't tell me sooner. But it wasn't about drama. It was about being erased from a decision that should have involved both of us. Days later, I got the insurance notice. Her name, the clinic. I wasn't included by mistake. I was included because my plan covered it. That night, we sat at the same kitchen table where we once made school projects and birthday cakes. "I support your right to choose," I told her. "But marriage means choosing together." Her voice sharpened. "So now you want to control me?" "No," I said. "I want us to be partners. This isn't something you do behind closed doors." She called me manipulative. But I wasn't trying to win an argument. I was trying to hold on to a family. I can handle a lot, but I can't handle being written out of my own life. We argued in whispers to keep the kids unaware. She claimed love meant backing her up. I said love couldn't survive without respect. To her, it was a gift. To me, it was a fracture. 2 parents under one roof, drifting apart while pretending stability for the sake of our children. She asked, "So you'd deny Emily the chance to become a mother?" I replied, "I'd rather not be dragged into something I never agreed to." We sat there, no longer husband and wife, just 2 people with shared history and different futures. Then she stood. "I'm doing it," she said, and left the room. No slammed door, just silence. But something inside me shut for good. Betrayal doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it creeps in with prenatal vitamins left beside your coffee mug, reminders that your voice wasn't part of the plan. She moved through our home like she had a secret script. Neighbors smiled, unaware. I kept up the suburban act. At our son's game, I watched him swing and wondered what lessons I was teaching about self-worth. I was trying to support her, but it kept costing pieces of me. One night, standing at our bedroom door, it hit me. I'd stopped calling it ours. That shift said more than any fight ever could. I hadn't just been hurt, I'd been erased. There wasn't a moment that defined the end. No shouting match, just a quiet conversation in the garage while sorting junk for a yard sale. "I need you on board," she said flatly. I asked, "What does that mean?" "No more resistance. Drive me to appointments. Be patient. Pick up the slack," she listed, like reading chores off a list. Underneath it all, a clear warning. Fall in line or become the problem. My phone buzzed. Her family group chat cheering on our journey. My name wasn't even mentioned. Emily called with gentle words. Daniel left a message about doing this together, except I wasn't part of we. I looked around the garage at our kids' bikes and old camping gear. I had a choice: protect the life we built or watch it be rewritten without me. I can't support something that cuts me out, I said. She went still. Maybe we should rethink everything, she whispered. That was it. The crack finally surfaced. The next morning, I filed for legal separation. In our state, it's a pre-divorce pause dressed as wisdom. The clerk stamped the papers. Dates burned into the page like quiet grief. I texted her. I filed. No drama, no threats, just truth. She started typing, then stopped. On the way home, I bought milk and batteries for the smoke alarm that had been chirping for days. Back home, I fixed it. No celebration, just maintenance. That night, we made pancakes for dinner, like old times. I had made my choice. Now, I had to live it. Then came the test. 2 pink lines, a confirmation from the clinic. She printed it and stuck it on the fridge, held up by a magnet shaped like a baseball. The kids didn't notice the paper, but I did. The nurse's name, the appointment time, the blank next to support person. That used to be me. She floated through the kitchen, cheerful, casual. Want to see the ultrasound? She asked. I looked. I'm not heartless, a glowing swirl on glossy paper. She smiled like she'd won. I slid the image back under the magnet and picked up my lunchbox. Outside, the sun dipped low over the cul-de-sac. Neighbors waved. Somewhere, a lawnmower hummed. She waited for something. Maybe congratulations. I said nothing. That word is for teammates. That night, her family chat exploded. Prayers, condemnation. A cousin I barely knew called me a coward. Emily added me to a church prayer chain. At Sunday service, my name appeared beside people recovering from surgeries. Then her mother called. A real man supports his wife, she said, like quoting a bumper sticker. I do, I answered, but not blindly. Later, my middle child worked through spelling homework at the table, sounding out responsibility. That word suddenly had weight. I sent one message to the family thread. I will be present for my children. I will not participate in a pregnancy that was never ours. I read it aloud once. It sounded like me. I hit send and flipped the phone face down. Appointments piled up. Lab work, ultrasounds, vitamins. She pushed a calendar across the table and handed me a pen. I'll need rides, maybe a little support, like she was asking for a carpool favor. I looked at the dates. None were mine. You still have help, I said. Emily and Daniel can step in. She muttered something about parking and nausea. I took the van in for servicing, because real support is hands-on, not silent submission. When the day came to hear the baby's heartbeat, she turned to me. Want to come? Some sounds change your life. A baby's first cry, a final goodbye. But this heartbeat didn't belong to me. While they sat in the clinic, I stayed home fixing a leak under the kitchen sink. I tightened the valve until the drip stopped. In another room, a heartbeat echoed. But I stood in silence, and for once, the silence felt honest. The judgment didn't come in waves. It came in whispers, glances and checkout lines, awkward nods from neighbors. Then, finally, a voicemail from Jennifer's mom. How can you be so heartless? She asked. I was driving past the same park where I once ran beside my son's wobbling bike, where I'd learned the grace of letting go. I pulled over and let her words finish. Cold wasn't the right word. Clear was. That evening, I made meatloaf and powdered potatoes, the kind of dinner you cook when everything feels too heavy to fuss. The kids asked if Mom was sick. She's resting, I said. Later, I stood alone in the garage, leaning on the workbench I built with shaky hands and an Allen wrench. That's when it clicked. People call you cold when your boundaries no longer make space for their comfort. They label clarity as cruelty when it no longer includes them. Emily and Daniel came by with store-bought pie and practiced empathy. We sat in lawn chairs as mosquitoes chewed through the silence. Emily leaned in. This is about family, she said like a campaign slogan. Daniel nodded like a bobblehead. I stared past them at the swing set I'd built with blisters and bolts. That's why I'm drawing the line, I said. My kids didn't sign up for your cause, Daniel chimed in. It takes a village. I asked why the village kept sending their invoices to me. Emily's voice tightened. You're twisting something generous. No, I was declining enlistment in a mission I never joined. The porch light flicked on behind us like the house itself needed reinforcements. I stood up, grabbed the plates, and said calmly, I'm not planning a journey I never agreed to take. Inside, Jennifer was busy updating the wall calendar. Soccer games, orthodontist visits, garbage days. Routine was her version of denial. On Wednesday, she made my favorite casserole, joked about sharing pregnancy cravings. I gave her the kind of laugh you give in a meeting when you want to move things along. On our shared spreadsheet, she scratched out separation and wrote temporary. I crossed it out with a pen. The wedding photo still sat on the mantel. We were smiling in it, frozen in a time before we knew what we'd become. I left it there. Some reminders stay up as warnings. That night, she patted the couch cushion next to her. "We can get through this," she said. "We've done hard together," I replied. "But this is hard apart." The dishwasher hissed like a balloon deflating. She reached for my hand. I kept folding laundry. The requests came steadily. Ginger tea, a heating pad, birth class sign-ups, a tour of the maternity wing. She asked if I'd time contractions. I replaced smoke alarm batteries and checked the carbon monoxide detector. I wasn't prepping for her delivery. I was holding up what was left of mine. When she asked for a foot rub the same night our youngest needed help with a diorama, I said, "I can either glue trees or rub your feet, not both. Parenting is triage. You deal with what's urgent." "You're distancing yourself," she snapped. "I'm drawing a boundary," I answered. "Kindness without limits turns into resentment, and that poisons everything." At church, someone handed me a pamphlet on supporting your pregnant partner. I later used it as a bookmark in a detective novel. She posted her cravings list under the chore chart. I still did my part, checked my boxes, but I wasn't going to play husband in a story I hadn't agreed to star in. That wasn't cruelty. That was clarity with a spine. One evening, we stood across the kitchen island like opposing attorneys. "You're still my husband," she said. "Only legally," I replied. "Marriage isn't just paperwork," she argued. She leaned on words like duty, hoping they'd carry the weight. "Duty is why I pack lunches," I said. "But duty without consent? That's servitude." She looked at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. "I'm finally showing up as the man I should have been years ago." Above us, the kids thumped across the ceiling like a heartbeat that wouldn't stop. "Can't you just be kind?" she asked. "Kindness is telling the truth before it rots," I said. "And the truth is, I won't carry a choice that erased me." We ate cold leftovers in separate corners of the kitchen. The scraping of forks said everything we didn't. I washed the dishes but left her glass out to dry alone. The street was still, suburban silent, 10 p.m. still. I took the trash out and spotted her sitting in the car, engine off, hands fixed at 10 and 2. She stared straight ahead. "I can't do this alone," she said quietly, not looking at me. And in that moment, I realized she already had been. She was searching for the part of me that used to fix everything, grab the keys, take charge, smooth it all over. I didn't move, just leaned against the window frame and said quietly, "You're not alone. You've got Emily. You've got Daniel." She shook her head, barely noticeable. "I need you." Need can be genuine and still misplaced. I thought about the kids upstairs, sleeping under promises I intended to keep. I can't be the backup plan for a situation I didn't choose. I walked inside and locked the door softly. Not out of anger, but closure. At 3 in the morning, the house whispered with those familiar winter creaks. Jennifer tapped on my door and asked if I could grab some antacids and maybe ice cream. My alarm was set for a few hours later. One kid had a test, I had meetings, a normal weekday already waiting to unravel. "Please," she said, voice carrying a memory of a time when I'd chase her through parking lots in the rain, laughing. I cracked the door just enough to meet her eyes. "That's not my child," I said, "and it's not my role." Her face dropped like I'd slammed something between us. The guilt came, but I didn't take the words back. She left, and I sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the dark. Boundaries aren't walls, they're guardrails. And that was mine. Responsibility has a scent. Burnt coffee, old laundry, early mornings. I never smelled it on Daniel. He missed appointments, blamed meetings, arrived late with a latte in hand, and an apology rehearsed in the mirror. Jennifer defended him. "He's got a lot going on." I nodded. "I get it. So do I. But if you're juggling, you don't drop the one thing that matters." I called him, told him plainly, "This is yours to carry." He replied with buzzwords like capacity and timing, as if life was just a calendar conflict. I asked if the car seat was installed. Silence. Then, "We'll take care of it." I already knew what that meant. Later, I spotted the car seat box still unopened by the garage, just sitting there like a forgotten promise. Daniel sent a thumbs up emoji in the group chat. That one image said more than any excuse could. Bills didn't care about excuses. Medical co-pays, legal fees, school supplies, sports gear. My calendar looked like spilled candy, bright, chaotic, everywhere. I made a folder labeled Details, not to attack, just to remember. Screenshots, dates, notes. Facts have a way of staying honest on paper. The kids asked questions that hit harder than any voicemail. Will Mom come to the game? Can Grandma pick me up if you're busy? I gave steady answers, the way crossing guards guide children through traffic, calm and focused. I told my boss I couldn't predict anything, but I'd keep my hours steady. She understood. She'd survived her own storm-raising twins. One night, I stood in the hallway between their rooms and felt the weight, the pressure, the role I never volunteered for pressing in. Trapped is the word people use before they realize they still have a choice. I kept up my end, paid what I owed, set alarms, let everything else fall to its rightful owners. If they wanted distance, I gave it to them. A wall, built brick by brick, made of documents and quiet resolve. There's a difference between patience and denial. I saw it clearly when I dusted a shelf lined with old photos, picnics, backpacks, two people too young to understand the future. The woman in those photos still exists. She just isn't the one standing next to me anymore. I folded laundry gently, accepted the truth. I loved who we used to be, but that version of us doesn't love me back. She once cried over a bad haircut, and I told her it would grow out. It did. Not everything does. I tucked a hoodie into a drawer the way you leave flowers on a grave. Turned out the light without making a wish. Grief, when it's honest, doesn't beg. That night, I didn't dream. I just slept. People expect things to fall apart with screaming and slamming doors. What I felt instead was frost. Still, cold, final. I kept the house running like a road trip. Tank full, snacks packed, routes memorized. I labeled bins, schoolwork, lunch prep, one by the door marked Emily's in tiny Sharpie. Jennifer caught me glancing at it more than once. We dropped the pet names. She stopped asking where I was going. We spoke in to-do lists now. Pickup times, dentist appointments, soccer games. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was preserving what still worked. When friends asked how I was doing, I said, clear. That was the truth. Like sobriety after too much pretending. One evening, Jennifer handed me a baby book, soft cover, brand new. Want to help pick a name? She asked. Names are promises, I said. And I don't make promises I can't keep. I gave the book back and went to get a blanket for the kids. The promises I could keep. The hospital bag showed up by the door, zipped, ready, like luggage for a trip I wasn't invited on. A few days later, Daniel sent a picture of a car seat in his trunk, as if proof of effort could stand in for presence. I didn't reply. The kids could feel something was off. My oldest asked, "Is everything different now?" "Some things might change," I said. "But the big ones, Saturday pancakes, homework at the table, the dog stealing the couch, those stay the same." At a Little League game, I watched my son scoop up a grounder and toss it clean to first. No drama, just the smart, easy out. Just the smart, easy. I admired that kind of simplicity. That night, Jennifer stood in the doorway. "Will you be on standby?" I met her eyes. "That's for Emily and Daniel now?" She gave a small nod. Not agreement, just quiet resignation. We slept in separate rooms. I set my phone to silent and flipped it face down. At sunrise, just as the sprinklers hissed and the streetlights blinked off, her message came. "We're going in." Emily followed up with a smiley face and a photo of duffel bags. Then came another. Jennifer's wrist, hospital band snug around it. The date glared back like a door slammed shut. I just stared at the screen until it faded. In another version of life, I'd have grabbed the bag, kissed the kids, and run every red light to get there. But not this life. In this life, I poured cereal, tied shoes, packed lunches. "Why are you dressed so early?" one of them asked. "Big day," I said. "Just not the kind you post about." Emily called. I let it ring, then replied, "I'm with the kids today." The group chat turned into a stream of updates. Stats, room numbers, blurry monitor photos. Like a sporting event I hadn't bought tickets to. Jennifer's mom left a voicemail. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. "She needs you." That word, need, hung heavy. I made sandwiches, cut the crusts, ran the dishwasher. More messages came in. People meant well. They always do. Yes, birth is a miracle. But consent matters too. At noon, I stepped outside with the dog. Sunlight hit me like a flashlight to the face. Somewhere in my head, I imagined sitting in a hospital lobby, plastic plants, vending machines, and a forced smile. Instead, I switched over the laundry. When the hospital called, I muted the ringtone. Some no's are best delivered in silence. Later, Jennifer called me herself. No group text, just her voice, thin and tired. "Michael," she said, "please." Behind her, machines hummed steadily. It used to be a sound that made me rush to help. "Can you come?" "Just for closure." As if presence could fix what absence had been forced to protect. "I'm not coming," I said. "You made vows. I promised to be your partner. You stopped treating me like one. This is about family." "Yes, and our kids expect dinner and normalcy tonight. They're part of this family too." Silence, then a muffled voice in the background. Probably Emily. Jennifer tried again. "Hun," she said, reaching for old familiarity. I didn't grab it. I said no. My voice didn't shake. After sunset, the backlash began. Voicemails laced with blame. Texts piling in like flyers on a windshield, selfish, heartless. Real men show up. I listened to a few, deleted most, and saved the ones that revealed the truth, plainly. Screenshots don't forget when people later try to edit the past. Emily warned that my absence would rewrite the story. But stories aren't sacred if they're built on fiction. I stirred pasta sauce until the kitchen smelled like easier times. Then I drafted a message for the family thread. I read it out loud, making sure it sounded like someone who could live with his choices. "I'm here for our children. I'm not part of a pregnancy I never agreed to. Medical and emotional updates should go to the baby's parents. Don't contact me during dinner hours. Boundaries work better when you give them a clock." I turned off my phone. You don't fight rising water. You build a wall. You protect your side. That night, I burned the garlic bread. No one cared. We played Go Fish. My youngest cheated a little, just enough to be noticed. I tucked them in with extra blankets and told a made-up bedtime story about squirrels who snore. Normal is something worth guarding. When the house finally went quiet, I washed the last pans slowly, the way I'd seen my dad do when I was little. He believed in small acts done right, even when no one was watching. The school calendar hung on the fridge. Field trip Wednesday, concert Friday. I circled both dates in red. In the living room, the baby swing Jennifer ordered still sat unassembled. The soft straps looked like apologies. I draped a towel over it so I wouldn't see it every time I passed. Some chaos demands attention. I chose not to give it mine. I locked the doors, turned off the lights, and went to bed. 2 days later, the front door opened. Jennifer stepped in carrying a baby in a car seat. Tiny hat, hospital blanket. The kind of moment you'd expect to see in a commercial. Except this one didn't end with credits. Emily trailed behind with a bag. Daniel followed, holding only his phone. The dog perked up. The kids paused mid-movement. The air felt thinner somehow. Jennifer walked straight into the living room and placed the carrier on the rug like it was a new planet. Bottles landed on the counter, diapers stacked up on the ottoman. A nursing pillow took the spot where we usually piled mail. "We'll only stay a little while," Emily said, "just until I recover fully." Jennifer looked at me like she wanted my silence to bless this decision. I didn't object. I named it. "This baby is not mine," I said evenly. "Your room is still down the hall. You, Emily, and Daniel, you already have a home." The baby stirred, making that soft newborn noise that cuts deep. I let it move through me like weather. Weather passes. Walls stay. At night, the house played its usual soundtrack louder. Refrigerator humming low, clock ticking like a metronome. The baby's cries threaded through everything. That sound is made to move adults. Mine had to learn not to. Around 3 a.m., Jennifer knocked lightly and whispered my name. I stared up at the ceiling and counted 4 slow breaths before I replied. "The kids have school," I said. "I've got mornings. Just need 10 minutes to shower." 10 minutes spent the wrong way can stretch into a lifetime, I answered. "Ask Emily, ask Daniel." The hallway creaked. Someone whispered. The crying turned jagged. I rolled to one side and thought of math quizzes, school pickups, the dinner schedule. Priorities aren't heartless, they're ordered. At sunrise, I made coffee and eggs while the house still smelled like sleep. Jennifer walked in, eyes hollow. I slid a plate across to her. Feeding my family is my job. I stuck to it, even running on empty. Families can go up in flames quick. One night, the baby's crying hit a peak, and no one could find the right pacifier. Jennifer barked at Emily. Emily bit back. Daniel watched a muted baseball game like it might spell out what to do. I gathered our kids' school stuff, led them quietly to their rooms, and shut their doors like storm shutters. In the hallway, Jennifer cornered me. She lowered her voice but filled it with tension. "You could pitch in," she said. "Pick up a bottle. Hold her for once." I kept my tone flat. "You planned this without me. You can manage it without me." She threw out words: ghost, stone, a dozen nouns that seemed accurate in shape but not in meaning. The baby shrieked like a period at the end of her sentence. I stepped outside. The night was cool. Porch lights flickered. A neighbor watered their garden under a flashlight. I stood by the curb and looked at our glowing windows. You can love the people inside a house and still choose not to walk through its fire. By 4 a.m., the house finally sank into a hush that felt earned. I was drifting towards sleep when the mattress dipped behind me and I sensed her settling close. "I can't do this by myself," she whispered, stripped down to nothing but honesty. In another life, that sentence would have launched me into motion. A quick fix, a damp towel, a reset. But I stared at the dark and remembered how she'd moved through this entire process, like picking out throw pillows, inviting me to admire her taste after everything was already done. "You're not alone," I said calmly. "Emily and Daniel are the parents. Your mom lives 5 minutes away. Start with them." She inhaled in that trembling way a person does when holding back emotion. "I'm asking you." I pictured our 3 kids, asleep down the hall, sweaty hair stuck to their foreheads, their breathing soft and rhythmic. I can't be the father to a decision that made me disappear. I started, but the sentence was jagged. She stood and left, not bothering to shut the door. Morning would find it open. People think fury is the most painful emotion, but sometimes it's the chill that stings. I moved through the following days like a man fixing shingles while it snowed. No flair, just focus. I ironed shirts, paid bills, scrubbed baking soda out of a sink volcano from a science project. Jennifer kept scanning my face like she was searching for sparks. She found coals. "Do you feel anything?" she asked one evening. I wanted to say yes. The deep pull of what used to be. The ache for the life that almost was. But emotions can trap you like mud. "I'm doing what's right," I said instead. "It's a feeling that knows how to behave." She cried on the couch with the baby asleep against her. I placed a blanket over them both, because empathy still has arms. Then I clipped the leash on the dog and walked, because repetition keeps men from unraveling. Outside, a neighbor waved, carefully, like someone who knew part of the story and wasn't sure if they should mention it. I waved back, a man wearing a winter coat in spring. The numbness held me up. That was enough. The calls kept coming. Her mother, then her aunt, then a woman from Bible study, saying she felt led to speak truth. Truth doesn't need air quotes. I let most ring out and saved the ones that accused me of things I'd need to disprove later. "He won't allow medical support," said one. I filed it alongside screenshots showing pediatric appointments, dental checkups, signed permission slips. My attorney told me to document, not to vent. Paper holds facts. Meanwhile, life didn't wait. Trash day, library pickups, pizza night. At the park, my youngest made it to the top of the jungle gym by saying the same phrase over and over. "One more step, one more step." That's how men get through their 30s and 40s. By resisting the sprint. I chose pace. That night, I silenced my phone and set a bedtime alarm like a boundary. A stack of folders on my nightstand grew taller. You don't fight storms like this, you outlast them. Saturday afternoon, Daniel knocked like he was still in high school. 3 taps, pause, 2 more. I opened the door to a man eroded by stress, but unchanged by it. "Can we talk?" he asked. Man to man, which usually means, "I want you to fix something I should be fixing myself." We stood out on the porch like we were comparing fertilizer brands. "She's overwhelmed," he said. "Could you step up for her?" The words "for her" landed like someone else's mail. I handed it back. "You're her child's father," I said. "Step up for your family." He rambled about Emily recovering, deadlines piling up, a boss who didn't understand. Bosses rarely do. Babies don't care. "Have you learned how to swaddle yet?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Have you gone through the car seat manual?" He stared at his sneakers. "We're all family," he offered. I nodded. "And families have lanes. Stay in yours." His lips tightened. He gave a nod that meant nothing. Then came the real ask. "Just a couple of nights," he said. "Until Emily's better." That's how erosion starts, one wave at a time. "The guest room is for my kids," I said. "For cousins, sleepovers. Not for the parents of a baby who has a place to go." He mentioned covering expenses if that would help me say yes. But money isn't the issue. Ownership is. As I walked him back to his car, I pointed at the car seat buckled in crooked. Level the base, I said. Install the mirror so you can see her face. He looked dazed. The list was already too long. You've got this, I added, because men should tell each other the truth even if it stings. He exhaled hard and muttered, "You'll regret this." Regret lives in the future. Abdication lives now. I waved once and went inside to make grilled cheese. My kids sat at the counter, feet swinging in sync, the rhythm I protect. Tension doesn't vanish. It gathers. A week later, it reached the brim. The baby cried through dinner. Spaghetti congealed on plates. Jennifer found me in the hallway, her eyes red and swollen from exhaustion. "You win," she whispered, which usually means, "I give up." Emily stood behind her, arms folded, a one-woman jury. The fight came fast, accusations tossed like grenades, old moments turned into ammunition. I kept my voice low and my palms open. "This isn't about winning," I said. "It's about keeping the kids sane." "Say it," Emily snapped. "Say you don't care." I glanced at the photo wall. Every frame told a story. "I care in the direction that matters," I said. The baby wailed. A porch light blinked on outside. Jennifer clamped her mouth shut and murmured, "I can't breathe here." For the first time, I believed her. I gestured toward the door. "Then don't." Even I was startled by the clean edge of it, and then it happened, quickly, as slow things always do in the end. Jennifer moved with practiced hands, packing diapers, wipes, tiny onesies. Emily lifted the carrier. Daniel hovered behind them like someone who lost the instructions and was too proud to say it. The kids stood at the top of the stairs, watching. Too quiet for their age, too wise. I told the Tadzin to wait in their rooms. I promised I'd come say goodnight. At the threshold, Jennifer paused. She didn't look for permission, just something. Maybe history, maybe habit. I gave a small nod. Not an invitation, just a signal. I won't stop you. I won't follow either. She stepped out into the night. The air smelled clean, like wet leaves and new asphalt. The door closed softly, like a finished sentence. I turned the lock. Locks aren't for keeping people out. They're for keeping kids safe inside. Before anything else, I walked upstairs, perched at the foot of each bed, and gave my kids the only thing I had left to give. Truth. We're safe, and we'll stay that way. That first morning after she walked out, the house sounded unfamiliar in a comforting way. I heard only the low hiss of the coffee maker, the jingling of the dog's tag, and the scribble of a pencil on paper. Raising kids in quiet doesn't mean you're alone. Sometimes it's space to finally exhale. I flipped pancakes in a kitchen free of baby gear. The kids sat in their usual chairs. Sunlight stretched across the table just like it always had, and it hit me how much I'd missed simple things. Peace didn't come in grand gestures. It came in little gifts. Socks that matched on the first try, shoes sitting neatly at the door, a mailbox that didn't bring bad news. That afternoon, we tossed a football around the yard, laughing at our awkward throws. For a second, guilt crept in, that nagging urge to fix problems that weren't mine. But I let it pass like a cloud. That night, instead of voices, the only sound at dinner was the gentle clinking of dishes. Before sleep, I locked the doors like my father used to, then echoed his words to my kids. This house protects us, and I meant it. The silence wasn't judging, it was a kind of grace. But that peace lasted all of 2 days. Then came the flood of phone calls, non-stop, like those automated political calls. "She just gave birth," one aunt snapped. "You're walking out on your family," another scolded, tossing in scripture like seasoning. Jennifer's mom sent a thick letter, 4 pages of moral calculations and family history, ending with a command, "Be the bigger person." I read it once. Adults should face what's aimed at them. Then I made rules. No phone calls after dinner, no surprise drop-ins. If it's about the kids in an emergency, contact me directly. Everything else? Talk to the baby's parents. I typed it all out in a message, read it out loud to check it didn't sound like a campaign speech, and hit send. Then I blocked the repeat offenders. The next day, during homework, my phone stayed silent. We practiced vocabulary, accountability, choice, trust. I could hear the lesson landing on both sides of the table. Pressure only works on people still unsure. I wasn't unsure. I had made my decision. No amount of persuasion was going to throw me off course. You can be steady without being heartless. I built a simple 3-step rule for all incoming messages. Acknowledge, clarify, close. I understand your point. I'm looking after our children. Direct any baby matters to the baby's parents. Copy, paste. Done. The kids asked small but loaded questions while riding in the car. Is Mom mad at you? Did we do something wrong? I kept my replies short and honest. Sometimes grown-ups don't agree. You're not the cause. At work, I told my boss I'd stay focused and reliable. She gave a knowing nod, the kind from someone who's weathered storms and stocked extra flashlights. One neighbor dropped off a casserole with a simple text. No drama, just food. I warmed it, then scribbled a thank you note by hand. Evenings found a rhythm again. Homework, reheated meals, walking the dog, turning off lights. Each quiet action reminded me of the promise I'd made, to protect our peace and keep chaos outside the walls. Being resolute doesn't mean being numb. It means your emotions ride beside you, not grab the wheel. I'm steering now. Then Emily left me a voicemail, 3 minutes long, polished like a TED Talk. She accused me of spinning the truth, of using boundaries as tools, of betraying the sisterhood she shared with Jennifer. She used cruel twice and family 7 times. I played it once at my desk, then again in the garage where the words couldn't bounce around. Her last line stuck. One day, your kids will learn you turned your back on their mom. I saved the file. Stories float until you seal them. That night, after the dishes were done, I replied with a brief text for the record. Got your voicemail. I won't talk about this on the phone. Let's stick to written messages. Anything involving the baby should go to you and Daniel. I set the phone down and helped my daughter glue popsicle sticks into a tiny bridge. We tested its strength until it snapped. Then she giggled and rebuilt it stronger. Message received. I'm rebuilding something that has to hold. Saturday, Daniel showed up, hands in his pockets, fake smile in place. That look men wear when they're hoping to swap awkwardness for relief. Can we talk for 5 minutes? He asked. We stood on the porch like 2 neighbors chatting about roof repairs. Jennifer's struggling, he said. You could help. I gestured toward the cul-de-sac where our kids once learned to ride bikes. I let go when they were ready, I said. They had to push the pedals. He shared that Emily's healing was slower than expected, that work was overwhelming, that he was barely holding it together. I nodded. Those were valid truths. Then I gave mine. Take care of your child. He offered cash, a schedule, vague promises that sounded like coupons, terms and conditions hidden in fine print. I told him our guest room wasn't a backup plan for someone else's household. He asked, "What if you regret this later?" "Regret lives in the future," I answered. "Boundaries live in the present." I opened the door wide enough to end the exchange and walked back in. Later that week, he returned, car seat in hand, instruction manual tucked under his arm. He mistook guidance for co-parenting. "Can you show me how to use this?" he asked. Foundations become routines. Routines become assumptions. Still, I walked him to the car, adjusted the seat, buckled the straps, and told him what every new dad needs to hear. You're capable, and it's on you now. When he tried to angle into new territory, maybe the baby could spend a night or two here, I didn't soften the answer. No, not maybe. Not let's think about it. Just no. The word felt crisp, like biting into a cold apple. Inside, my son called from the kitchen for help with long division. I left Daniel in the driveway with a working car seat and his own decisions. At the table, we divided numbers into neat pieces. Everyone saw where each part belonged. That's how I wanted our life. Simple math a kid could follow. No tricks, no hidden numbers. A week passed. Then Jennifer texted, "Can we talk?" No bystanders, no backup. I agreed. During daylight, on the porch. She came holding a small bag, and the kind of worn-out bravery that only shows up in brand-new moms and marathoners on mile 20. The baby stayed with Emily. That was new. "How are the kids?" she asked. I gave the facts. Science project, scraped knee, spelling test victory. She smiled in the right spots, then glanced toward the window the way people look at places they once called home. "I miss this," she said. "I miss us." The wind nudged the chimes, a sound I used to find cheesy, now sounding more like a sentence's end. "You miss consistency," I said. "Bills paid, a working calendar, a stocked freezer." She winced at the truth, then regrouped. "I miss being with you," she pressed. "Together means mutual choice," I replied. "And we didn't have that when it counted." I ended it gently. "We can coordinate kid stuff. The rest is off limits." We sat on the porch steps, a careful silence stretched in the gap between us. Jennifer started talking about the nights she couldn't sleep, the overdue bills, the weight of asking for support when you're used to being the one others lean on. I understood. Pride bites deep. She reached out, her fingers brushing mine. I kept my hand where it was. "I want to come back," she whispered. The word back stirred something old, but I pushed past it. "What is it you're asking for, beyond routines and a mailing address?" Her pause said more than her words. "I need consistency," she finally admitted, her voice thin but honest. That word rang true, but it wasn't love. Consistency helps. It isn't commitment. I told her I'll make sure our kids have a steady home, that their days remain predictable and safe. I'll communicate respectfully, go to doctor's appointments, and sit through school plays, but I won't tear down the fence that protects what's left of me. She looked away, blinking against tears. Naming what she wanted didn't hurt her. It kept me safe. Then she began to sob, folding forward like someone under a load too heavy to carry. It wasn't a performance. Her body just gave in. "I'm sorry," she said. For a second, I thought this might be the turning point, but then she clarified. "Sorry for how things ended, not for the choices, not for the deception. Consequences got the blame, not decisions." She asked, "Can we hold off on the legal stuff and try therapy first?" "I believe in therapy," I told her. "I also believe in triage. First, you stabilize the damage, then you talk vitamins." "We can co-parent well," I added. "We can work through a mediator on expenses and scheduling." But she wanted to talk about rekindling us, date nights, future vacations. I stared at the yard we used to mow together and saw our tracks leading in separate directions. "I'm not rebuilding something on cracked concrete," I said. That closed the conversation. She wiped her face, stood up, and nodded like she understood. But understanding doesn't mean agreement. My boundary stayed firm. Later, I heard the rumors that I was cold. Maybe. Or maybe I'd finally stopped mistaking being kind for giving in. I stayed open where it counted. School pickups, medical updates, shared logistics. When Jennifer messaged asking for a ride to a follow-up while Emily had a pediatric appointment, I sent her 3 options. Her mom, Daniel. I wasn't dismissive. I just wasn't participating in the old dance. I printed out a list of resources: support groups, housing services, legal aid, lactation counselors. Kindness can be information too. I handed it to her without volunteering my car. That evening, our oldest asked, "Do you hate Mom?" "No," I said. "Hate weighs too much. We're packing light these days." We made grilled cheese and watched a show where people restore old homes. The host said, "You can't skip the inspection. Neglected issues grow into big problems." "That's true," I nodded. We laughed at a staircase so tilted it looked like a slide. Cold wasn't the word. Clear was, and clarity kept us from harm. No more whispered updates, just paper. A server handed me a thick envelope stamped with Jennifer's lawyer's name. Bold letters detailed bold accusations. The old me would have unraveled. The current version opened a file box and got to work. I labeled folders: custody, communication, finances, evidence. I printed messages where I'd defined limits, receipts from doctor visits, calendars marked with who did what. My attorney, a calm woman who favored verbs over drama, reminded me to keep it concise and truthful. Courts respect the dull, factual stuff. We submitted our reply. I spent a weekend scanning papers while the kids built a fort from blankets that swallowed the whole room and gave it back full of laughter. At night, I practiced responses. Yes, I've been clear from day one. No, I didn't attend prenatal appointments for a pregnancy that wasn't mine. Yes, I want my children to have a healthy bond with their mom. The mirror didn't blink. Planning isn't paranoia, it's responsibility. When the email arrived with the hearing date, I circled it. Then I went to bed and slept. Her lawyer claimed abandonment, emotional neglect, financial disregard. The words looked intimidating on paper, but they held less weight against timestamps and screenshots. They asked for temporary financial support, citing her inability to work due to newborn care. My attorney slid across the unsigned surrogacy agreement, the emails showing I'd declined involvement, the records passing baby-related decisions to Daniel and Emily. During deposition, they asked, "Have you ever yelled?" "Yes," I said. "Once, when the smoke alarm wouldn't quit chirping at midnight." Everyone chuckled. Homes don't lie. "Do you still love your wife?" "I love my kid's mother," I said. and I respect her place in their world. Would you help her get back on her feet? I'll always ensure the kids have what they need, and that she has the access and info necessary for that, I replied. Then I said the words that anchored me. Not my child, not my responsibility, not my life. They sounded harsh. On paper, they looked even starker, but they were honest. That phrase became their dart and my shield. In court, I explained patiently, like a dad helping with a science fair. Obligation comes from vows, legal agreements, or biology. This pregnancy didn't meet any of those for me. I wasn't mean, just consistent. We submitted our record, texts where I wished her well but declined entanglement, notes with school plans, every receipt for our children's needs. Her side offered up family texts calling me names. The judge didn't care about relatives. We clarified the money I had covered. The mortgage, the lights, the groceries. I wasn't chasing a legal win. I was proving a stable home. My attorney asked the only question that mattered. Where's your focus been? On the kids? On routines? School? A secure home? The courtroom felt like a library. Dry, still. Truth drops the temperature. I walked out not proud or broken, just ready, like someone adjusting to a sudden wind, planting both feet. The hearing felt like a long parent-teacher conference, minus the art on the walls. The judge asked short questions and cut off monologues to request specifics. A guardian ad litem spoke to the kids. Their report confirmed what I already knew. They were thriving. Good grades, predictable days. Jennifer's lawyer leaned into emotion, sacrifice, dreams, mine stuck to impact, and results. We watched a short video walkthrough of the house. Rooms in order, a chore chart on the fridge, backpacks by the door. Boring evidence is powerful. When Jennifer took the stand, she cried. I didn't avert my eyes. She said she believed healing was possible, with help. The judge asked who we included and what help meant. Silence followed. Silence speaks too. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it direct. I'll always support the kids having a strong bond with their mom, but I won't share a roof or take responsibility for a child who isn't mine. There was no dramatic gavel slam, just a quiet click. The judge said the final ruling would be issued in writing, and we all stepped into the hallway, the light outside sharper than before. That Tuesday afternoon, the decision came in via email, a PDF that spelled out the road ahead. I opened it at the kitchen table, the heartbeat of our home. It said I'd have full physical custody, scheduled visits for her, and shared legal authority over our 3 kids. Everything was detailed like step-by-step instructions anyone could follow. No spousal support regarding the baby. Each line read less like a victory and more like scaffolding, something temporary to hold things steady while we rebuilt. I printed 2 copies, one for the folder in the file box, the other pinned on the fridge beneath a magnet shaped like a baseball glove. The kids burst in after school, loud and hungry. I told them only what mattered. You're staying with me. You'll visit Mom on certain days. Nothing else changes. My oldest exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. You could feel the release. That evening, I stood at the sink washing dishes with the window open, letting the breeze sweep out months of lingering tension. The house had its hum back. The silence wasn't an accident anymore. It was a decision. That first full week felt like slipping into a pair of shoes that finally fit. Mornings were peaceful again, eggs frying, backpacks zipped, someone cracking a joke about who forgot to put the milk away. I packed lunches, tucked in notes with little phrases like, "You're strong," and "so proud of you," because small words lift big days. After school, we tossed ground balls in the yard. Later, we sat at the kitchen table, pencils tapping, stories flowing. One night, a storm knocked the power out. I lit candles, and the living room turned into a campfire without the fire. We played Go Fish under flashlight and laughed when the dog ran off with someone's card. My youngest asked, "Are we okay now?" I paused before answering. I looked at the 3 faces I'd cross any storm to protect. "We're better than okay," I said. "We're grounded." Later, when the power came back on, no one reacted. We'd already found something more important: rhythm, quiet, a home that wasn't fighting itself. Standing in the hallway with a laundry basket in hand, I understood something. Peace doesn't yell, it stays. The first pickup happened that Friday. I packed overnight bags with care, pajamas, favorite stuffed animals, a printed copy of the weekend schedule tucked neatly in the pocket. When Jennifer pulled into the driveway, I walked the kids out, kept my voice calm. "Have fun, be good. Let me know if anything changes." No big speeches, just parenting. She looked smaller than I remembered, tired, guarded in her tone. "Thank you," she said, and this time it wasn't a chess move. We stood at the handoff point, 6 feet apart, agreeing on pickup and drop-off like adults who'd stopped pretending. The kids returned Saturday with crayon drawings and soft questions. I answered only what was theirs to know. "Yes, bedtime stays the same here." "No, you don't have to pick sides." Before sleep, my oldest whispered, "It felt different." I nodded. Different doesn't mean bad. Sometimes it just means real. There wasn't a climax, just a firm handshake, brief, like a business deal. We discovered the tone. Strong, but not cruel. The group chats fell silent the way cicadas do, suddenly and thankfully. Emily texted once about a hard night. I replied with the same list I'd given Jennifer: support group contacts, a nurse hotline, postpartum resources. Daniel sent a photo of their baby asleep in a bassinet, the picture grainy and full of pride. I wrote back, "Nice job. Keep going." Jennifer's mother sent a short letter. No guilt trips, just a promise. "We'll help however we can." I took that as progress. At our place, we weeded the garden and planted tomato seedlings. The kids watched birds flutter at the feeder and argued about what to name the red one. I passed through the living room and saw the baby swing, half-assembled and collecting dust. It didn't belong in our narrative anymore. I loaded it into the car, drove it to Emily and Daniel's porch, rang the bell, no speeches, just giving something back to the right place. At home, I swept the corner where it had been, like you do after removing a tree stump. Suddenly, the space could breathe again. Freedom didn't announce itself with fireworks. It came quietly on a Sunday when no one needed me except the 3 people who called me Dad. We grilled hot dogs, sprayed for ants, and tuned the old guitar that never stays in tune but always tries. I rehung the hallway photos, school portraits, muddy cleats, that one sunrise from our road trip last summer. The wedding picture? I boxed it up under a label that said past, not trash. That felt honest. After the kids were tucked in, I sat on the porch with a glass of water and a dog whose only goal was to sit near. My phone lay face down, and for once, the stillness didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a friend. I thought about men I know, coworkers, neighbors, my brother, who mistake peace for dominance. I wasn't winning. I was maintaining a home. The breeze pushed through the maple leaves, and I heard my father's voice, like a memory riding the wind. "Just do the next right thing." I let out a long breath, clean, grounded, and I realized something. I wasn't bracing anymore. No more waiting for the knock. I was home.